Hey everyone, my name is Nathan Payne and welcome back to another episode of Blu Ocean Crypto. So today I want to talk about the easiest farming strategy currently in Heroes of Mavia in order to help you upgrade everything at HQ9. Now it's no surprise, most people already know about this in the community. It has to do with the phages, but I want to go through all the details and the nuances because if this is something you guys aren't taking advantage of, maybe you should. And there's also a couple finer details that can kind of help you if you are doing this. So maybe you don't have to lose trophies, what kind of bases you should be looking out for, maybe what kind of bases you should be avoiding. So I'm going to go through all of that. So without further ado, let's jump right in.
I want to play.
Okay, so now that we're in game, the first thing I want to cover is you do not need to upgrade your phages to the new HQ level. It's actually cheaper to train them if you don't. However, I did, and the reason why I did is I wanted to avoid failing. I wanted to get the 50%. This is really up to you guys. Some people are preferring keeping them at the lower level for the reason I mentioned. It's a little cheaper and faster to train. But I ultimately went with the upgrade because I didn't want to lose my cups. Now, a fail can still happen, and I'll go through that. I'm going to show you guys 3 different examples of attacks. I'm going to show you just an ideal one. I'm going to show you one how we save getting the 1 star, and then I'm going to show you that fails can still happen no matter what. So let's jump into it here. So first one is, let's do this one. So really all I do is I'm looking for bases that obviously has loot. Anything really above 200k is good enough in my opinion because I can train the phages so quickly. And then I'm just spreading along the entire base. This is definitely not a complicated strategy. Some big bombs and traps can make things a little bit harder. But really what I'm looking for is collectors and storages somewhat on the outside of the base. So you can tell everything in here was around the edges. It made it a little easier. But then all the phages converged on that one. Now I'm always saving about 20 phages because you can see actually once I finished with the collectors, now I'm sending the phages on the trash around the base. And really all I want is the 50%. And then to save time, you can simply quit right now, just like I did. I hit the 50%, I knew I was good, I seen the star, I left. Like I said, I'm trying to farm loot as fast as possible. I don't need to sit around to get an extra 10%. There's no point in that. So that's really the ideal way to do it. Deploy almost all your phages, but not all, save like 20 or so. You could even get better with that and use a smaller army once you start getting more comfortable with the bases. But I just find to really make sure I'm always securing that star because I don't want my trophies lowering. That's what I do. I deploy everything except 20. And of course, with the new rally point and everything, you're going to be able to bring more with you. Now, let's take a look at one where I had to save the 50%. And this is a big tip. I highly recommend you always have your heroes up and at least available when you do this, especially if you're trying to protect the stars. Now, we can notice here, there's a gold storage in the middle of the base. These are generally the only types of bases you want to avoid because you're going to notice here that I have a hard time getting in. I do ultimately get it. But this is really the only thing you're going to look out for with phage attacks is maybe you don't go after the bases with the storage centered like this because it's going to be really hard to get that 50%. However, I wanted the loot. I decided to go for it and I had my hero, so I knew I was going to be generally okay. And you can see these attacks are really fast, so it doesn't take a ton of time. You can really do them quickly back to back, especially if you add a training capsule into the mix or even Sapphire. So right now, like I said, I'm just doing my thing. You know, I'm deploying. I got my 20 phages left kind of as emergency. You can see they're all converging in the middle to get that last gold. I do ultimately get it. But a lot of the trash is actually inside of the base. Not everything is on the edges. So I'm first going to deploy just to take out everything around the edges. Let's just speed it up a little bit here. But we're going to notice, and I noticed I didn't quite have the percentage I needed. I ended up getting stuck here at around 45%. So I figured, where can I get 3 buildings picked up? Well, let's go in the top because that factory is almost done. And this is really what your heroes are used for, is just simply to save the 50% to make sure you still get that star so you don't lose your trophies. This is why I always make sure that my heroes are up and available when I'm doing this attack. And then you can see I quit immediately because I want to save as much hero health as possible. I don't want, extra time on my heroes. So let's just go back and we'll take a look at the last one now. Okay, so going into the last stack, I want to show you that fails can still happen. So even with the heroes or with not, this one I decided it wasn't worth it. You know, I got the loot, I left. Some people are preferring using the phages, not caring about the star, and they're only ever going for the loot. But you can see here, there's almost 400k gold. The problem is some of these storages are a little bit centralized, and of course the trash isn't that easy to get. So you'll see kind of how this plays out. This can still happen. I would say maybe 1 out of 40, 1 out of 30, I might still fail. So it definitely does happen even when you're trying not to. So, you know, I did my regular, I deployed all the phages, I left 20, but you can see here, there's just too much AoE. I can't get that gold storage. And then this is the reason why I wanted to highlight this one for you guys. I made a mistake here. I tried to come in from the heroes, and the heroes will actually pull the phages. So you can see here, the phages are redirecting to the heroes. They're not going for that gold storage. This is effectively failing my attack. And I knew there's no way I'm going to get 19% with my heroes. So I just decided, okay, let's call it. I'm going to quit. No worries. So you could just say, screw it. I'm just going to use as many phages as I need to get loot and quit and move on. And then your trophies will drop. Some people are doing this because they say there's better loot down lower. I tested it. I haven't found that much of a difference. I find people higher up are scrounging for loot, so you can catch them off guard sometimes. And I've caught some 500Ks, even a millions. So I'm not entirely convinced that dropping trophies is the best way to get extra loot right now. I know it is a common practice when people need to upgrade things, but like I said, I'm not really convinced. I haven't seen a crazy difference when I did test one account and go down. But you can tell people don't have a ton of loot up here. It's like 200k. But when you're smacking these bases with phages over and over and over again, really quickly, really easily, I'm happy with getting like 200ks, you know, because I can just keep on top of it. Helps me get the loot that I need. This is definitely something you guys should be using if you're struggling to get loot right now. It just really speeds everything up. Do me a favor, make sure you guys have creator code GROTH active in your settings. It does reset every 60 days. Makes a big difference and goes a long way to support all the events that we do for Mavia and our Alliance. And of course, if you're not subscribed, it takes 1 second. That really helps us too. And then lastly, hit that like button so we can get this content out to more people. Okay, we'll see you all in the next episode. Cheers.